Hey there, I'm Chris Benetti, host of the Smart Author podcast. In this episode, I speak with Suzanne Doyle Ingram of Prominence Publishing, and we discussed her process for writing a client attracting, door opening, revenue increasing book. I think that learning and understanding more about how your book can become a client attractor is really important because it can help you drastically increase your business. Some of the main topics we will be covering today include the difference between self, traditional, and hybrid publishing models, why your book sales don't really matter, and Suzanne's process for writing a book that attracts clients to your business. At the end of this episode, please make sure you visit our website where you can find the show notes plus all the links mentioned with Suzanne. If you're enjoying this episode, please make sure you subscribe so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. And if you're struggling with book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit and a clear plan to get your book sales back on track. Now, let's head over to this awesome interview. Hey, Smart Authors. Welcome to another episode of the Smart Author podcast. Today, I'm joined by Suzanne Doyle Ingram. How are you, Suzanne?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Suzanne runs a very awesome writing company and publishing company called Prominence Publishing. Suzanne, would you mind giving everyone a bit of a background to your business and how you kind of got started in the space?
Sure, I'd love to. So I started my company 12 years ago after before that I had a marketing agency. And when the economy crashed in 2008, 9, 10, I kind of squeaked along for a little bit and I was like, this is not happening. So I thought I had to, what they say, the P word, pivot and do something else. And I thought, well, maybe I'll write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. I have a background in linguistics. And so I wrote a book, but I wrote my first book under a fake name because I was so afraid it was going to fail. I didn't want anybody to know that it was me. So the funny thing about it was that this was when Amazon was allowing people to just starting to let people self-publish. So I put it on Amazon, and the basics that I knew about marketing, SEO type of meta tags and keywords and that kind of thing helped me make it a bestseller. So there I was, a brand new author, having a best-selling book, but a totally fake name. So I was like, no, really, it's me. And it was just a bit of a disaster. But I thought, well, this is kind of cool. So I wrote another book and another book. And in that year, I wrote 7 books. And they're all nonfiction. I started making a little bit of money from book sales. And people started asking me, like, how do you do that? And I kept saying, it's so easy. And then finally, one of my dearest friends said to me, you're actually insulting people because they don't find it easy. It is not easy. And I was like, oh, I thought I was trying to be nice. So I put on a little course in my little hometown on how to write a book. And then it went really well. And then I just put the courses online. And eventually I had to start my own publishing company because people kept asking me, how do you get your books on Amazon? So that's over 1,000 authors ago.
Wow.
Yeah, well, and it's been awesome. A really fun ride. I love it.
So, 7 books pretty quickly. You must have a pretty good process for writing books, right?
I do now, yes. At that time, I had 3 little kids. So when people say to me, I don't really have time to write a book, I was like, BS. It's just, you're not making it a priority. And I do have systems, and now I have way better time management that I teach my authors too. But basically, I wrote every night from 10 o'clock until midnight. And after my kids went to bed, and I was really tired. But the nice thing about writing a book is it's kind of like having a baby. You just get it done and then it's done. When people say, I've been writing a book for 5 years, I think, you poor thing, it doesn't need to take 5 years. If you have a really good, solid outline and a foundation for your book, it's pretty simple, actually.
And I actually really love what you call the way you write your books. You call them client attracting, door opening, and revenue increasing books, which is just like right up my alley and right up everyone who's listening. It's right up their alley as well. So I would like to know, if you have a process or would be willing to share what your process is, and what the most important things are for when you're planning and writing your book.
Sure, I'd love to. And by the way, it's funny because I already knew who you were. I sort of have my eye on you because your business is so complementary to my business, and I think it's really, really cool the work that you do. So
Thank you.
I'll definitely be sending people your way. So what we do, it's a little bit different because we don't really focus on book sales. This sounds really strange coming from a publisher, but I love to catch people before they start writing their book. Often people don't really understand that there's a process to it. And so they go, oh, I want to write a book. And there's all this conflicting advice on the internet. And some people say, oh, just write whatever comes to mind, which is absolutely a disastrous way to write a book. It's a really bad idea to just write whatever comes to mind. I always say to my authors, okay, I want you to imagine that you're taking your reader on a journey. What do you want your reader to see? What do you want your reader to know? What do you want your reader to feel? Like, readers nowadays don't have a lot of time. They're saying to you, okay, I'm going to give you 5 to 10 hours. So what you give them better be good, not just random musings. I think a lot of times people are shocked when I say, hey, buddy, your book's not about you. Like, check your ego at the door. And I'm like, this is the tough love part of my coaching that comes out, because I'm like, your book has to be for your reader. So what we do is we look at a person's business. We go, okay, what do you love about your business? What do you want more of in your business? And oftentimes our process of helping them write their book actually helps them get really clear on their business. Because a lot of times people are out there trying to get new customers. And when they're really being honest with themselves, they realize, I don't even really like this part of my business. I actually like this part of my business instead. So we go, well, let's focus on that. Because whatever you want more of, we're going to put that in the book. I have a great example of this. I had a real estate agent once who signed a contract with us. We're going to help her write a book on how she works with first-time home buyers. And we're like, okay, we had a meeting with her. We went through the whole outline. And then one of our editors met with her to sort of guide her through, this is how you're going to write your book. And my editor said, what do you love about first-time home buyers? She said, oh, I hate them. I don't like working with them at all. And we said, why are we putting together a book for you for first-time home buyers? She's like, oh, I just thought it would be easy. I was like, no, that's not how it works. So it's a great little story to illustrate, what you want more of. Let's put that in your book. So the first step is doing all your homework on who you're writing your book for, what you want your book to do for you. Do you want to get speaking engagements? Do you want to do a TED Talk? Do you want to have an online course? Do you want to have a workshop? Do you want more patients or more clients? Do you want a coaching program? What do you want more of? Get really clear on that. Then we help them develop other components. For example, putting in a little bit of credibility in your book so the reader thinks they can trust you, that you know what you're talking about, but also putting a little bit of vulnerability in the book so the reader doesn't think, oh, he's had it easy his whole life, it's just easy for him. They go, oh wow, you felt that, I felt that too. It's almost like a little NLP going in there to make the reader feel like a sense of belonging and that they're in the right place. So all of what I've just said is what most people are not doing when they're writing their books if they don't have a training or a coach. Then we really work on the outline. So the outline is the most important thing, and people cannot write a book they could try to write a book without an outline, but it won't be good. You've got to have an outline. An outline is really like your map. If you want to drive from California to New York, you don't just drive aimlessly and hope for the best. You need to know exactly where you're going to stop for lunch, exactly where you're going to stay. And it just makes it such a smooth process if you do it that way. So what I've really described is our expert author program. But other than that, then we take the book, we edit it, we do the cover design, we do the interior typesetting, we put it on Amazon, we launch it, confetti and balloons and all that stuff, make it a bestseller. And then they need someone like you to do your magic on it.
And before the show, you mentioned you've got a resource for people to check out on that whole process that you've just explained as well, right?
Yes, I do. I have a 9-step book writing blueprint, and it's on expertauthorprogram.com. Awesome. So it's a free resource that kind of guides them through all the 9 steps I just talked about.
Sweet. And that'll definitely be linked up in the show notes to anyone who's listening here as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris.
So, okay, you actually have a very unique perspective on publishing that I haven't actually seen much of. Like, there's self-publish. You basically you do all the work, or you hire someone to help you do all the work, kind of thing. And then you've got
Yeah.
traditional, where they basically are the publisher. You pay them a fee, but then they also in continuity get royalties in exchange for helping you get to places, on shows or on in bookstores and whatnot. Suzanne actually has a hybrid model, and I'd love for you to explain that a little bit more, because that's actually something that's quite new to my perspective, and I'm sure a lot of the smart authors listening haven't heard of it either.
Oh, okay, great. So the hybrid model is sort of in between. And I always say to people, like, if you imagine like a horizontal line and self-publishing's at one end and traditional publishing's at the other, it's somewhere in the middle. And some people also call it, there's something called vanity publishing. I'm glad you asked this question, because one of my biggest pet peeves is when people go to some publishers and they end up with 1,000 books in their garage. And I do not recommend you do that. If you have someone that tells you that you're going to get 1,000 books, they're really great salespeople, and they'll make you believe that that's just the greatest idea ever, because you can sell them all for $20 each and you're going to make tons of money. But most people end up with about 900 books in their garage. So don't do that. Please don't do that. There's something called print on demand now that's just absolutely amazing, and you can just buy 5 or 10 or 20 books at a time. So there's that. But one other thing I want to mention to you is that traditional publishing, you just said that you usually pay a traditional publisher, but often you don't pay them anything, and they won't even look at you unless you have 1 million followers on social media. So that's something that people got really upset about and dejected about, because they feel like their book is worthy. They've written the next Eat, Pray, Love, and they want to get on Oprah. And I'm the person that goes, hey, just so you know, Oprah's not going to phone you. Like, I'm a realist. And so I work with people to understand what their average customer value is and how we're going to help them use this book to get more customers or more patients, because we work with chiropractors and naturopaths and people like that too. So the old-fashioned notion is, I'm going to write a book and everyone's going to buy it. Everybody's going to be talking about it. It's going to be so great. And Oprah's going to phone me, and I'm going to just lie on a lawn chair eating bonbons beside the pool. But that is not realistic. The hard work comes after your book comes out. And there's a lot of disappointment out there from people who will lie to you and tell you, like, oh yeah, that's just going to be great. You're just going to be able to retire. It's not true. You need to do the work after the book comes out. So one of the things I love for people to understand, especially when I work with like realtors or life coaches, people with online programs, is that people are going to find you and then they're going to find the book. So we want to get people on podcasts. We want to do what you do with, like, run Facebook ads to their landing page, things like that, so that they find you, then they find your book, and then they read your book, and then they might download your free worksheet or whatever, and then you can keep in touch with them. They really using the book as a marketing tool is so important, so that book sales don't matter anymore. Because if you know your average client is worth, let's say, $10,000, or let's make it easy, let's call it $3,000. Let's say your average customer is $3,000 over the lifetime that they're with you. So it might be a 6-month coaching program, or maybe it's 3 years, who knows? If your average customer is $3,000, do you know how many hours and hours and hours it would take to sell $3,000 worth of books? It's a lot of time and a lot of money, and you don't want a new job as a bookseller. So that's why it's so funny to people when I say it's not about the book sales, and they're all like, what do you mean? I got to sell books. You can sell some books. I mean, I've got a check sitting on my fridge over there for a few $100 from Amazon. Every now and then they come in, you get money here, money there from Amazon. It's lovely. As a matter of fact, my house cleaner, who I adore and I appreciate so much, she picked up the check off my counter today and put it on my fridge. And I looked at it and I went, that pays for the house cleaner. It's like gravy money, right? So yeah, we are a hybrid publisher. So what we do is we do charge a fee, because we do all the work. We completely edit the book. We do the cover design. We do the interior typesetting. you still own all of your files. We create an account for you on Amazon under your name, but it looks like Prominence Publishing. So the backs of the books, like I'll just show you, here's an example of a book. Here's an example of a book with a, like Prominence Publishing is on the back, or you can have your logo on the back. And we don't really, it doesn't make a difference to us. And then for us, it's all about making our authors look good and whatever is professional. If they say, oh, I want a picture of like a, you know, a dead cat on the back, I'm going to say that's a bad idea. We're not going to do that for you because that won't make you look good. So then we show them how to order copies of their books. We launch the book. We do it all for them. And that the major difference between us and other people is that you keep all your files, you keep all your work, you keep 100% rights to your book, and you get all the checks from Amazon. It doesn't go through our company, and you're kind of stuck with me forever. So after your book comes out, then we work with people to help them. You know, we've done TEDx talks. Our clients have done TEDx talks. They've done, you know, opened up a YouTube channel, got really busy on LinkedIn, booked keynote speeches, created online courses, and all that good stuff that comes with it. So the book's just the first step, but it's an awesome step.
Yeah. And so, and my mistake for the traditional publishing and what I said there, I have been introduced to some like neo-traditional publishers who also do charge a fee and take some royalties.
Yes.
And so like from my perception, yeah, totally understand. So I actually really like this hybrid model because the ownership and control makes it so much easier for you to market your book on an ongoing basis.
Yes.
The biggest issue I have found recently is if someone wants to sell more books, which is, you know, in turn going to create more clients in the back end, which is what both you and I promise, then it's very difficult for them to do so if they're traditionally published, because the traditional publisher owns and controls and manages the assets. It's on their Amazon account. They own the book copies. You have to buy the books from them. It's extremely difficult to set up any sort of funnel. It's extremely difficult to even do direct sales on Amazon if you want to do sponsored, you know, listings. And I mean, I found it very difficult. So it's like I'm trying to navigate these waters of like, how can I work with people who are and have traditional publishers, or, you know, somewhat of a traditional publisher. So this model is just fantastic in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it too, because I think that things should be equitable, and that's why we charge a fee. So we're paid for our work, and the person owns their files. So you could make an update to the book every year if you wanted to, and send it to us, and we re-upload it to your account, and it's live on Amazon within 24 to 48 hours. It's pretty amazing. You can change the cover if you want. You could literally do an A/B split test on the cover, a blue cover versus a red cover. Which one sells more? It's unbelievable what you can do. And, you know, like I said, you're kind of stuck with me forever. Well, if they don't want to hang out with me, they don't have to. But I love being able, we do it all the time where people come back, hi, remember me? I'm like, of course I remember you. And so make changes to their book, and or many times they go on back with book 2, you know, book 3, or some of them have lots of books that they do.
Yeah, sure. And I feel like it's pretty wild as well in the space, because I don't know, I guess it's just an old school paradigm where it was extremely difficult to publish in the past. And so these publishers could come in and kind of just like do the work once and make the money forever kind of thing. And what I see, and you can also give me your perspective as well, is that most of the publishers that come through, they'll do the launch and maybe like some level of post-marketing of the launch, like post-launch marketing, but then they kind of stop putting in the work, but they're still getting paid for it in perpetuity. Yes. Which is like, I can't see how that's a win-win for the author. Like I feel it's not frustrated. At all.
And not only that, sometimes they only make about 10 cents when the book sells.
Yeah.
Like, so when you do it our way and with Amazon, we use Kindle Direct Publishing. Some people use Ingram Spark. You know, there's lots of ways you can do it. But what I love about KDP is they're the highest royalty rates anywhere in the world. People go, oh, I don't like Jeff Bezos, I don't want to give him my money. I'm like, honey, he is doing you a favor. He is so generous. Amazon is very generous. So, people can make money with book sales for sure. And I think it's just really fair to be able to give them the rights to their own work. I had someone the other day, she wanted to book a strategy call with me, and she wanted me to sign the most intense non-compete, non-disclosure agreement I've ever signed in my life. I've signed quite a few of them, but this was just amazing. And it was sad because what happened was she had an attorney who's just scared the pants off of her. Just like, people are going to steal your ideas. People are going to steal your book. People are going to steal it. And it was just kind of like a normal kind of book. Like, I was thinking, oh, I can't wait to get on a call with her because this is just going to be going to like blow my mind. And like, oh yeah, you got a bit of a story, but that's what's happening out there, is that there's this same, yeah. So I don't know compete, so I can't give you any information, but there's a lot of it out there where there's bad advice. People are taking a lot of money from people, like a lot of money from people. One woman I spoke to the other day, she said someone has a $100,000 publishing package. And, most normal people can't afford to spend $100,000 publishing their book. So I kind of help the little guys, not that little, but I like to make it fair. I think it's a book is just such a great marketing asset for people with a small business. It really shows people who you are and what you stand for. So when they read your book, they feel like they know you, and they come to you pre-sold on working with you. It's incredible how it works, especially if you follow our system and do it our way, because it's sort of like a humble way. You can include stories in your book about how you sort of, how you serve your clients, how you help someone. That's humble and makes you look good, but it's also kind of bragging, but it doesn't come across that way. You're not filling the book with stories about me. It's really keeping the reader in perspective and how this book's going to help the reader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And so is there any like specific things that you implement inside books to drive them towards the client's world, like more specifically for services or offerings that they have?
Well, everybody's different. So it really depends on the person. We just got a new client yesterday, and someone had coached her to put questions at the end of every chapter. And it's really interesting because it's like, this doesn't go with your book at all. Of course, that works for some people, for coaches and that kind of thing. I really love, it totally depends on the person. So sometimes with coaches, I try to help them develop like a system of how they put people through a program, like whether it's the Shine system or the Thrive system, like that works really cool, because then they're developing their own language around it. They've got their own words that they can use. Their own methodology. Exactly. They can have a workshop, an online course, a TED Talk, everything about that one system. And then there's also sometimes people come to me and they say, I want, getting back to the Shine method or the Thrive method or whatever, of course, we could direct them to, a 3-video course that they take, the accompanying course that goes with this book. And I don't like people to spend 6 months creating a course for the little freebie. So we keep it really, really simple, right? But there's also, it could be, a worksheet. If anybody's listening, let me give you $1 million piece of advice right now. When you direct people to a URL, make sure you have control over that URL. So, because sometimes they're like, oh, I need to change the links in my book. And I'm like, so what I usually say is, whatever your domain is, /book or /resources, whatever, that one page, you can change that every day if you want to. You could say, you could have a video of yourself going, yay, you must be here because you bought my book. Thank you so much. Here's the resources that I promised you. And then you link from there, but just have one landing page from your book. That's a good idea.
And set your domain to auto renew.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I never even thought about telling them that. Mine all auto renew. And so then it depends on the person. So sometimes people say, hey, I need a quick book. I just got booked to speak in September and I need a quick book. So we can do quick books for people. This is another great idea for people if they want to do something quickly, is to write a tips book. So if they're like a health coach, they could do, 27 ways to improve your health. It could be, one is like drink water, one is walk every day, whatever your tips are. And under each one of those tips, you write what it is, why it matters, and how to do it. It's so simple. I've taught a whole course on this before, and I'm thinking, how am I going to teach this course? Because all I said of the course is already what I just said. It's like, name the tip, tell us what it is, why it matters, and how to do it. If you write 3 pages a day, you could have this book done in 30 days. It's so easy. Yeah. So there's something like that you could do, right? There's also multi-author books. We do a lot of multi-author books where you get 10 or 15 people, each person writes a chapter. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question about what people should include in the book, it has to be something that you have control over. So it's either download the worksheets, watch this video, book a strategy call with me, but keep it simple, because you just have to focus on writing the book, not make it this huge elaborate plan where 6 years later you're still trying to put together the course and the this and the that, and linking everything together. You're nodding your head because you're like, yeah, I've seen people do that before.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, from my perspective, I would just suggest like tie it into what you're already doing. Like, don't overcomplicate it.
Yes.
The additional resources and bonuses to go along with the book. Yeah, sure, put some effort into that, but you've kind of already written a book, so you've got content. You can expand on and develop upon.
Exactly.
So it's not something you need to overcomplicate. And then, once you've got that person in your world, it's like, just control the journey, give value and tell them how they can progress. If you don't tell them how they can sign up with you or start working with you, then they don't know how to, they can't.
Tell them what to do. Tell them what to do. Go here, download this thing, do this. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So do you have any other tips that you would like to share for the listeners here?
Yeah, I've got lots of tips. Okay, so what I said before is really important. Start with an outline. Don't edit as you go. Just let it flow. Let it flow. Let it flow. Always think about the reader. What's in it for them? What are you trying to share with the reader? If 100 people read your book, maybe only 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 will work with you. The other 90 people need to have value in your book. And please don't think that you don't know enough, because when you're writing, you just imagine your ideal client sitting in front of you. What would you say to them? If you were to speak to them for an hour about who you are and how you work and how you get results for people, you want to kind of include stories of a transformation in your book. Like, what happens when people work with you? And then what? A chiropractor doesn't just fix your back. It's like, so you can play with your children or enjoy skiing again, or whatever the benefit is that happens after. But it's all totally doable. I think that people make it too complicated and they get overwhelmed by it. But I really feel like if you just make a plan, decide what you want your book to do for you, figure out who you're writing it for, write your outline, and don't forget to download my 9-step guide at expertauthorprogram.com. Because that'll help you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I feel like that's a fantastic way to end the episode. And like I said before, that 9-step will be linked in the show notes, so everyone will have access to that. And make sure you get it. It's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure being on your show. Thank you for coming. Likewise, it has been absolutely amazing. What an awesome episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing on your podcast platform of choice so you get notified every single time a new episode releases. And if you're struggling with your book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit of your book sales, to see where we can help you bridge the gap between not many sales to a lot of sales. It's a free resource call that we have together where I give you some clear action steps that you can take to take your stuff from broken to selling. I'll see you over there. Thanks again for listening.